Hello there ladies and gents, welcome back, another Fishbat battle report. 2000 points, kill scenario, Undead versus Elves in Kings of War. These are the notations I use for my videos, pause if you need to have a look at them. So, let's have a look at the Undead army that I brought to the table this time. First up we have the Bone Giant. He is borrowed from the Empire of Dust list. Why have I got this guy? Well, mostly because I love the model and I wanted an excuse to use it in my Undead. He's like most giants except that he shambles, which is a big deal because he's not going to be marching with double, but you know, you can get him with some surge shenanigans. Except he won't be doing any surge shenanigans today for reasons I'll explain. To unlock that giant, which I like so much, some skeleton warriors, and I just made these guys count as being Empire of Dust so that I could unlock him. Just a regular skeleton regiment, they're going to hold the line for a turn or two, nothing more than that. And then a troop of ghouls. These guys are just great chaff, I love using these. A troop of wraiths. If you've played Kings of War for any length of time, you probably know about these guys. They like flying over your line, getting into tricky places and recharging things. A vampire lord to lead things. Always a good little beat stick, very versatile. 8 attacks hitting on 3s, crushing strength 2, life leech 2. He can be given magic options, but they are very inefficient and I wouldn't recommend giving him any. I've also given him Blade of the Beast Slayer, because my opponent usually brings some sort of big thing, and often a big flying thing. So an individual able to pivot and then charge big flying things with crushing strength 2 is an asset. I've got a Lich King as well, because I want to have some inspiring surge and healing, and this guy brings all of those all at once. I've also brought a Necromancer, just for a bit more support. He has Bane Chant so that I can get some crushing strength down the line where I need it. Also the Surge, and I've given him the Talisman of Inspiration to keep the troops going. A regiment of Revenant Cavalry, because a 16-inch charge with Thunderous Charge 2 and 16 attacks is just what I need. Potion of the Caterpillar is pretty much mandatory for at least one cavalry unit in your army because terrain is a big deal and you don't want the -1 to hit, you don't want to cancel out your Thunderous Charge. So these guys have got Caterpillar and they won't take advantage of it this game, but you know, just good for them to have it. A troop of Soul Reaver Cavalry. These guys are really expensive, but they are quite tough in terms of their defense, but their nerve is low. Never know what to think of these guys, but when they work, when they don't, they really don't. But I'm bringing them, I like the models. The crushing strength means that they're some use even when they're not on the charge, and the life leech 2 means that if they get into a grind with something low power, they will grind it out. A regiment of wights, I love these guys. The extra speed is useful on shambling units, up to 6. Crushing strength 3 means that these are my can openers. They fix most of the high defense enemies put before them pretty easily. A horde of zombies. These guys are just, you know, a nice anvil. Put them somewhere where you don't want enemies to keep going forwards and they'll usually do the job. A regiment of revenants. Try saying that 10 times quickly. Yep, these guys are just high defense zombies really. A couple of balefire catapults. I like these things, but you need to take them in more than one because 5+ to hit is not reliable enough. But yep, bring 2 or 3, and it's pretty good because you can do some serious damage with these. Now let's have a look at my opponent's army, the Elves that he brought along. To begin with, right up the top of this page, we have a horde of Kindred Archers, and they have the Heart-Seeking Chant giving them Piercing 1. These guys are pretty nasty. 20 attacks, half of them are hitting, and the Piercing 1 to drop that defense. It's quite potent. And then just to the left in the picture, we can see an Elven Mage. Talisman of Inspiration to inspire everything nearby. Also has Bane Chant, which will be used invariably to give those archers Piercing 2, making them even more scary. He's not modelled this way, but he is actually mounted on a horse. And yeah, he's just another pain in the neck. In this picture you can see 2 troops of Palace Guard. My opponent actually has 4 of these, but they're all the same. They're pretty good, I think, for their points. 105 points, 10 attacks, melee 3, crushing strength, and the speed 6 especially. It's you don't want to just go too far forwards, because these will put a decent hurt on something. And the nerve is actually high enough that they can take a hit themselves and last a turn. So yeah, pretty good little unit there, especially for as far as chaff goes. And then over on the right side here we have the Elven King mounted on a horse with a blade of the Beast Slayer. So this guy is just a dedicated guy to run around, look for big things and then smack them. Looking further afield, we can see over on the left we have the other 2 troops of Palace Guard, equipped exactly the same. But then in the forest here we have some tree folk. Right down the front we have a horde of forest shamblers, which is a shambling horde, as the name suggests. One thing I did not expect this unit to have vanguards, so you can see in the picture they've already made their vanguard move. Yeah, my opponent warned me that he was taking these guys. I really should have read their rules, but yeah, they ignore terrain, they vanguard, they shamble, and I thought, oh, okay, well shambling's going to be a disadvantage for them, but this tree herder guy, he has surge, so he'll be surging them along. Now the tree herder, I assumed that he was the forest warden, the 75-point guy, but no, this was the big one. So he has surge 8, so he can get these forest shamblers all the way down into combat. Crushing strength 3 means he'll be hitting stuff, 7 attacks means he'll be hitting it quite hard. Pathfinder, he's getting through forests, and he also gave him the Medallion of Life. So not only is he really high nerve, 1820, with a 6 defense, but he's also regen, so this guy is just a tough nut to crack, especially with that small base, so you're not getting in many units to be able to hurt him. Alright, and then over on the left side of the board we have his faster pieces. A horde of Dracon Riders. We all probably know about these guys. They have the 18 attacks, crushing strength 1, thunderous charge 1, fly. They can get themselves into really tricky spots and just keep fighting and flanking and rear charging and causing all sorts of trouble. Even in those games where a unit of Dracon Riders doesn't get its own points worth, they usually cause their own points worth of hassle, because it makes the opponent advance very carefully so they don't expose their rear. They have to plan a little bit in depth. Moving on, we have the Stormwind Cavalry, once again a regiment, an 18-inch charge, so these guys are very impressive movers, and they have the Potion of the Caterpillar as well, so they can reliably punch really hard on the charge. And a 3+ melee with elite means they are really hitting hard. And then we'll go over to my deployment. So right over in the corner, I've got one of my catapults. Despite that hill there, it's got a reasonable line of sight. We're playing the hills as being a height of 1, so it can still see things like cavalry. I've got the wights, not the wights, the wraiths, sorry, always mix those up. The wraiths are just in front of the catapult, and they're looking to go in front of the board, perhaps get a flank on those archers later. Unit of Remnant Cavalry, probably going to line up some of the Palace Guard across from them. Then I've got the unit of the Revenants next to Skeleton Warriors, Soul Reaver Cavalry hiding behind the forest right at the back, and the Necromancer in the middle to inspire them. Except that he can't inspire the skeletons because they're from Empire of Dust and you can't inspire allies. In the back of the board, right at the middle, we have another catapult, again to cause more trouble, and the zombies in front of them. Now I'll discuss this a bit more later, but I think that this was a poor choice of deployment. The zombies are meant to be my anvil, but I've got nothing next to them as a hammer to really capitalise on them stopping anything. I mean, the Soul Reavers are nearby, but I probably should have had more infantry blocks, to guard their flanks. And then we have the Vampire Lord. You can't see him very well there, but over on the left is the Vampire Lord hiding behind the house. Then the Bone Giant, ready to crush some things. the Whites Regiment, or that Crushing Strength 3, and the ghouls behind them who are going to act as chaff and interference. I shouldn't have put these guys here. Again, all of my heavy Crushing Strength stuff is here. The Vampire's Crushing Strength 2, the Giant, and the Whites are both Crushing Strength 3. They don't all need to be in the same spot. I need to spread my Crushing Strength through the line, I think. And I think that the Whites really should have been supporting the zombies. And we roll, and the Undead get first turn. So there's a general advance. I remember that I do in fact have a Lich King, so I'll put you on the board behind the Revenants before I start moving up. I move up the Whites, but as we'll see, I have moved them into just the wrong spot. They should have been about an inch to the right. The Soul Reaver Cav moves a little bit to the side and then forwards, and a cautious advance from the Skeletons and the Revenants. Then I fire the Balefire Catapult at the, what do you call him, is the tree guy, forest thing, I don't know. He's not the Warden, he's the other one. Anyway, the big stompy tree man who costs a lot of points and is unkillable. Well, I hit him hard, and it was 6 points of damage, which was nice. The other catapult, however, fires at those shamblers and misses. Zombies advance midway up through the lake, and you can see over the left side there I've got some very careful shuffling. I'm trying to keep things just out of charge range. I'm in a bad spot because his stuff is really punchy, but it's also really quick. So I need to advance really carefully for this. The Vampire comes out to the middle, and he's very deliberately just a little bit back from the ghouls and from the skeletons. So there's not enough room for him to be charged by the flyers, and so that he'll be able to redeploy and fight if the flyers decide to charge the ghouls or the Bone Giant. And that's just kind of what things look like at the end of the turn. That's where the Elves are at the end of the first Undead turn. So then, Elves, first turn. So on the left, the Elves respond in kind, very cautious advance. The Dracon Riders advance only a few inches, the Stormwind Cavalry even fewer inches, just really jostling for position so they're out of my charge range but are able to charge me. Palace Guard moving up to be able to support both against my left flank here and to support the centre with those Forest Shamblers. The Forest Shamblers were in range of my zombies. I knew that, and for some reason I was okay with that. I really shouldn't have been because I had no support for those zombies. That was a very silly thing for me to do. But anyway, I did it, and these are the consequences. I took 8 damage to those zombies. The King right up the top, he moves at the double and pivots because individual. The Tree Man regenerates 1 damage, so he's down to 5. The Mage Bane Chants the archers as well. So I've got an extra piercing on them. And the troop of, Palace Guard, they advance very slightly as well. Then the archers, with all of their Bane Chanting goodness, shoot at my wraiths, do 6 points of damage, and they rout them. And if those wraiths had been just an inch to the right, they would have been out of their arc of sight. They would have been out of that 45-degree angle for them to be able to see them. So that was very bad positioning by me. I really should have checked and been very careful with what I did. But yeah, that was my bad positioning, and I suppose that's what I deserve for it. So, Undead turn 2. My Revenant Cavalry were in range of the Palace Guard troop, and I just had to go in there. Mistake number 1, I Bane Chant them. The Revenant's Cavalry already have Thunderous Charge 2, and against a Defense 4 enemy, you're not going to get any better, it's just 2s. So I Bane Chant them, but that's useless because they're still only going to be hitting on 2s. I should have Bane Chanted the zombies. Anyway, the Lich King, the Revenants, the Skeleton Warriors, and the Soul Reaver Cavalry all move up ready to support. The Soul Reaver Cavalry are going to have a beautiful flank on those Forest Shamblers if those zombies hold out another turn. The zombies go back into combat, do 2 damage, healing 1 of themselves. So hopefully, 1 more round against those Forest Shamblers, they'll survive, and then I can really take care of them with the Soul Reavers. Also, the Catapult gets in a nice hit against those archers, 6 damage. Now, I've got a waver sign there. That's not the archers. I wish it was the archers. No. That is the Palace Guard. They only took 4 damage from the cavalry charge, which is really disappointing. And now they have that big juicy flank left open to the big tree guy. I forget what his name is. Let's call him Treebeard. That left their flank open to Treebeard, and he's going to call the Entmoot and then get right up in their flank. So, over on the left side, once again another cautious advance. I'm out of range of charging, so that's out of the question, and don't want to overexpose myself. So, my giant is in range of being charged by everything, but again, the Vampire Lord is just slightly back, so he can't be charged by any targets because they won't be able to fit, and he's in a place where he can respond to everything, no matter what they do. Even if those Dracon Riders go behind my lines, the Vampire Lord will be able to get to them. In retrospect, I don't know if I should have moved faster because other parts of the line were beginning to get into combat. Should I be doing this part faster? At the time it seemed okay since they weren't meeting combat either. But anyway, cautious is what I did and cautious is what I got. So, Elven turn 2. The Dracon Riders do indeed move the double and pivot, which I was okay with this because it meant that nothing of mine was getting hurt. His Palace Guard units up the top, they pivot either way so they can protect against my Bone Giant on the one hand and then my Soul Reaver Cavalry on the other. The Elven King moves in to look for trouble, and I didn't expect this, but the Stormwind Cavalry actually had charge range on my zombies. I didn't notice it because I was so focused on that Bone Giant. And so the Stormwind Cavalry combi charges the zombies with the Forest Chamblers, and between the two of them they easily smash in all of the damage they need. As a matter of fact, I've got 4 plus 11, let's see which one did the 11. Yeah, it was the cavalry that put in 11 damage, so if it weren't for the cavalry, those zombies would have held, but as it was, they rout, which is really not good. And those, it's not in the picture, but the Shamblers will turn 90 degrees to face the right, and the cavalry will turn 90 degrees to face the left, so they're looking at the flank of that Bone Giant, so I'm in big trouble at this point. And then to round out the turn, Treebeard does indeed flank the Revenant Cavalry over there in front of the Palace Guard. The Palace Guard that were wavered, they move a couple of inches back, which is enough room for the other troop of Palace Guard to charge the front. Between them, they do 14 points of damage, which makes them evaporate and rout, which was horrible. The Mage Bane chants the horde of archers, and the archers then shoot my Soul Reaver troop for 7 points of damage, and I was very lucky they actually held. I was very lucky to get that. So we're going to see, in the wording I've got Ogre losses. No, that's a mistake. These are not Ogres, these are Undead. But my Undead losses, a Zombie Horde, a Revenant Cavalry Regiment, a Wraith's troop, and that's getting close to a quarter of my forces already, and I've taken nothing from him yet. So 2 turns in, and it's not looking very good for me yet. Then, Undead turn 3. Let's see what I can do. So, Vampire Lord turns around, he decides to try to put a smack onto those birds, and he gets 4 points of damage. The Ghouls turn around to screen for the Whites, and the Whites are getting ready to put a hurt on this cavalry if they can. The Bone Giant sees his moment and tries to hurt on those Palace Guard, makes the charge, only 3 points of damage. Disappointing again. But then elsewhere, the Soul Reaver Cavalry fly into another unit of Palace Guard, 7 points of damage, but again they hold. So routinely through this game I've done little damage to these Palace Guard troops. These little throwaway 105 point units have really held me up and bogged me down. So I haven't been able to deal with his real proper units either. The Skeleton Warriors charge Treebeard because I just need to tie him up. It's a fool's quest, but the Skeleton's never going to win it, but I just need to tie him up. The Revenant Regiment, say that 10 times quickly, they go into the Palace Guard at the front, 5 damage, and waver them. So all 4 of these Palace Guard units I've put damage on. 2 of them I've wavered, but I can't do more than that. The Lich King and the Necromancer move up, and they fail. The Necromancer fails to cast Bane Chant on the Revenants, which doesn't help me either. The Catapult does another 3 damage to the archers at the back, 9 damage total, but they're still fine. So that was the end of Undead turn 3, a lot more underwhelming than I'd hoped. So it starts with Elven turn 3, and you can just see what happens here. The Dracons fly 20 inches, so now they're looking straight at my catapult. The Forest Shamblers turn around and they are surged. I haven't actually put it in the slide, but they are surged by the Forest Warden into the flank of the Soul Reavers. The Palace Guard charge them from the front as well, so they're gone. The Palace Guard and the Stormwind Cavalry go into the Giant. I think the King joins in as well, and the Stormwind even have the flank. And they don't care about that terrain either, because they've got Pathfinder, so they're going to do a phenomenal amount of damage too. And then the Archers shoot the Revenants for 11 points of damage and rat them. Before combat can even happen, I concede. I can see what's going on this board, and I just think, nah, it's gonna. If we play this to the death, it's gonna be another 30 minutes, but we can really see what's happening here. And here was what I was looking at when I saw the board. 2 of my good units, my Giant and my Soul Reavers, they're just gone. There's no way they're lasting this. My 2 catapults are going to be eaten by those birds. The skeletons are just in the way of a nearly 300 point monstrosity, as well as archers and Palace Guard. This entire game, those mages, the Necromancer and the Lich King, have done almost nothing. I've used them so badly, and I also haven't had much of an opportunity to use their skills and their spells. But at this point, there's nothing left they're going to be able to support. They're useless now. Nearly 400 points of uselessness. So the only real stuff I've got left are my Vampire, my Ghouls, and my Wights. And they are good, but they're not going to fight off everything that's left here. So I might be able to get a bit here, a bit there, but there's no way that it's going to be standing by turn 6. If Sun Tzu, Napoleon, and Julius Caesar were all, talking about what they were going to do here, they could not turn this around at this point, So that's why I decided to concede, and yeah, that's my thoughts on it. So, it was an Elven victory, definitely well played by my opponent. So let's talk about what went wrong in this game. Not going to be talking about the dice, because it doesn't really help much. You can blame luck, and luck does play a part, but you can't change that game to game. If you blame your game results on luck, you can't learn anything from that. So it's always best to look at your decisions, because even if you have bad luck, you have luck management. You need to be able to manage risk in a game. So let's start off with this Bone Giant. I took him, and I made a bit of a mistake. I thought that I was going to be surging this guy, but he is taken from the allied list Empire of Dust, and my opponent kindly informed me that I can't cast any spells on him. So I can't surge him, I can't heal him. I knew I couldn't inspire him, but yeah, that just made him a bit of a problem, because couldn't move at the double, can't be inspired, can't be healed, can't be surged. And if I was to take another caster to surge him, that's a lot of investment in a Bone Giant for, is okay, but it's not magnificent. I don't want to bring all of that baggage just to keep him going. So unfortunately, I don't think that he was going to be pulling his weight actually. Other factors that did not go in my favour, I was choosing bad targets for the catapults. First turn shooting at old Treebeard there. He's a defense 6 unit with an enormous nerve and regenerate. He's just the worst target I could choose, because even if I do hit him, and even if I do damage him highly, I'm not going to get a rout in one shot. I would need to hit with multiple shots, which would require multiple turns of shooting, but then if he has multiple turns, he can just regenerate back some of that damage. So that was definitely suboptimal. I should have been shooting at the chaff. If I had hit even one of those Palace Guard, that would have been more than any other unit did. It was almost certainly have wavered or taken one off. I did shoot the archers a few times. I should have focused them because they were almost deleting a unit a turn. So target selection, important thing. Bad positioning. I've mentioned this before, but those wraiths, they should have been an inch to that right in that one point. They would have survived. They would have been useful. My opponent would have had to dedicate resources to fixing them up. Yeah, that was just a mistake on my part. Both of my spellcasters, my Lich King and my Necromancer, these guys between them were almost 400 points, so about a fifth of my entire army were these two guys, and they did nothing. They didn't heal, they didn't surge, they didn't Bane Chant. Whenever my units were attacked, they usually took large damage, so their inspiring wasn't even helpful. So I really did not use these guys well. That rolls into problems I had with deployment. I didn't deploy these well either. They should have been supporting units better. Part of that was because I was surprised I wasn't using my Bone Giant. I wasn't able to support him. But yeah, I had all of these points sunk into support and I didn't support anything with them, which was a total waste. And as I mentioned, deployment. Look at those zombies over there. They are by themselves. They're my anchor. I need to tie up something with them and then have something big come in from the side and smash it. Which the Soul Reavers are kind of there, able to do that, but not really. I really would have been much better if I deployed my wights more centrally. And I should have perhaps stayed close to those Skeleton and Revenant regiments so that I would be able to help and support. And I think part of it was I was trying to keep a firing lane open for that catapult, but the catapult needs to work around my blocks, not the blocks working around the catapult. Because the catapult is not a reliable asset, it misses 2/3 of the time. So that was a mistake on my part as well. Alright, so that's the conclusion. Pretty short and punchy game, and I try to learn everything from every game. And I hope you found this somewhat educational as well. So thanks for watching, bye.